CEO dares 14-year-old girl to fix the unfixable engine. 3 minutes later, the corporation collapses. Every mechanic in Hydrotech's glittering test bay burst into laughter the moment 14-year-old Arya Nguyen, grease-smudged jeans backpack still on, stepped beneath the studio lights. Victor Langley, the silver-tongued CEO, worshipped for fixing the unfixable, slid a prototype engine forward like bait and sneered, "Touch it if you dare, kid." 20 cameras zoomed in, hungry for humiliation. Arya ignored the roar, laid one steady hand on the humming steel, and her eyes narrowed. She didn't sigh, didn't stutter. She simply declared, clear as a rifle crack, "This engine isn't broken. It's lying." In that instant, every adult's grin snapped shut, and the billion-dollar room forgot how to breathe. Any viewer witnessing this storm in the making, who craves watching a billion-dollar empire crumble beneath a teenager's fingertip, should act now. Let every viewer smash the like button, announce their city in the comments, and subscribe before the next hidden line of code detonates. Each tap fuels the spotlight, shielding Arya while exposing every suit who masked this sabotage. The stronger the surge, the sooner justice crushes Hydrotech. Dawn bled barely a whisper of light across Houston's warehouse district when 14-year-old Arya Nguyen shoved aside their cracked apartment window and dropped to the sidewalk, backpack thumping her spine like a second heartbeat. She was supposed to be home grounded after hacking a teacher's grading rubric for research, yet instinct clawed louder than rules. Every scent of gasoline on the breeze felt like a coded summons. Across town, Quang Nguyen, her father, the man whose hands had rebuilt half the city's delivery vans, rolled open the corrugated door of Nguyen Auto and Diagnostics with a sigh that tasted of worry. Today wasn't a normal tune-up day. It was Judgment Day. Hydrotech, the trillion-dollar titan that sold dreams of driverless freedom, had promised to arrive at 8 a.m., sharp hauling a prototype engine called A9 Oracle, a machine rumored to self-heal or self-destruct. Quang had begged his daughter to stay away. These people wear silk ties to hide nooses, he'd warned, but Arya had simply traced a finger across the motherboard of an old ECU and memorized the pattern, pretending to listen. Arya reached the shop before first shift. Inside, rows of fluorescent tubes buzzed over concrete scarred by decades of drop tools and disappointment. She slid behind a stack of used tires, watching her father rehearse greetings to imaginary executives, wiping phantom grease from his beard again and again. He looked like a knight, polishing dented armor before a dragon arrived. Right on the second, a mirror-shined convoy slipped around the corner, black SUV, 2 map patrol sedans, a flatbed sealed under silver tarp. Doors fanned open in choreographed precision. Victor Langley emerged first, the legend who once solved a nationwide recall with a single board meeting. He wore cufflinks shaped like infinity symbols, as if even time answered to him. Behind him trailed a squad of Hydrotech engineers in matching graphite jackets and expressionless faces, each clutching tablets that displayed more assets than the entire block's net worth. The Oracle engine rolled off the flatbed like a coffin on rails. One careless mechanic whistled. Another muttered a prayer. Screens along its casing flickered through error codes faster than eyes could track. Langley strolled, the bay gaze gliding over cracked linoleum, and family photos tacked to toolboxes as though assessing a flea market. When he spotted Quang, he offered a handshake so firm it felt like ownership. "Your reputation for old-school brilliance precedes you," he said, voice dipped in charm venom. "Prove it." Quang's pulse stuttered. Diagnostics gear warmed, laptops chirped. Yet, every reset spat out a new fault, Loop 88 critical cascade. Retry. Miguel Cruz, a veteran mechanic whose back told weather better than Doppler radar, slammed a fist against the workbench. Nothing. Arya crouched deeper behind the tire's mind, already mapping the possibilities. She'd spent midsummer nights reverse engineering Hydrotech firmware just to see if she could no guide, no tutor, only curiosity and pirated PDFs. The Oracle's hiccup pattern looked painfully familiar, like a half-remembered melody. At 8:17, the laughter started a nervous chorus of adults masking panic. Langley removed silk gloves, signaled for cameras to power up, and proclaimed, "If my dream team can't resurrect Oracle, perhaps we need a fresh set of eyes." Shame the only volunteer would be a child. His tone turned mocking, daring fate itself. Kwong flinched, then noticed the empty corner where he'd parked his daughter's bike that morning. Arya stepped from the shadows before anyone could shout. Grease smudged her cheek, motherboard schematics bulged from her backpack. A single fluorescent tube fizzed overhead, spotlighting the misfit among professionals. Kwong's eyes filled with equal parts fear and inevitable pride. Her presence screamed disobedience, yet also possibility. Langley's lips curved into a predator's grin. "Little mechanic, do you know what an NDA is?" he asked loud enough for microphones to drink it in. Arya simply tucked a loose strand of hair behind one ear, gaze locked on the engine like a cryptographer confronting a cipher. The room quieted, not out of respect, but anticipation of failure. But failure wasn't why she'd ignored her father skipped algebra, outrun the sunrise. Something in her gut, a siren of pattern recognition, insisted the Oracle wasn't sick. It was pretending. She inhaled the metallic tang tasted deceit. She remembered tracing firmware loops at 3 a.m., noticing how Hydratech sometimes built backdoors that even internal auditors couldn't see. While technicians rebooted tablets for the 12th time, Arya pictured hexadecimal strands dancing behind her eyelids. 13-digit loops every 88 seconds. An elegant glitch designed to distract from a single corrupted byte that, if triggered at highway speed, could turn a smart vehicle into a guided missile. Langley's impatience snapped through the silence. "Kid, the adults are burning daylight." Arya's response was a single step forward, steady as a metronome. Her father whispered her name, half plea, half prayer, but she kept moving. One hand reached out and found the engine's casing. Cool vibration thrummed through her fingertips like a lie detector begging questions. She glanced at Langley, then at the row of red-lit fault readings, and spoke only to the Oracle. "Tell me what you're hiding." In that hushed breath, the hierarchy of age title and billion-dollar arrogance trembled on its hinges, and destiny rewrote its invite list. The hush after Arya's first touch lasted 3 heartbeats. Then the garage erupted in overlapping orders, rustling cables, and the dry scrape of Victor Langley's patience snapping. He jabbed a manicured finger at Miguel Cruz. "Run the full diagnostic again," she's guessing. Miguel swallowed, keyed the command, and everyone watched the monitors cycle through the same crimson loop. Error 88. Unrecoverable. 30 seconds later, the fault repeated unchanged, as if mocking Hydratech's finest. Arya tilted her head, tracing the rhythm of the flicker the way a pianist reads time signature. She spoke softly, yet every syllable cut the air. "That loop isn't an error. Someone hardwired a masquerade. They want you wasting hours while the real fault stays buried." Gasps rustled like leaves. Langley forced a smirk. "Adorable theory. Show us." She didn't flinch. Instead, she reached for a service tablet, fingers dancing through submenus engineers hadn't known existed, bearing command strings like secret knocks. Lines of green code erupted, revealing a secondary interface hidden below factory firmware. At the bottom flashed a single tag in blood red type, sabotage, source, Hydratech, HQ. Miguel's knees buckled, his voice a rasp. "Sir, that directory's supposed to be locked behind Tier 7 credentials." Langley lunged, yanking the tablet, but the truth was already projected on a 10-foot monitor. Red letters burned across steel walls. Camera lenses whirred closer. The mocking laughter that greeted Arya minutes earlier died so completely, the hum of fluorescent lights felt deafening. Kwang Nguyen's throat clenched. Pride and terror wrestled behind his eyes. This was his child dismantling a corporation in 60 keystrokes. "Arya, enough," he whispered. She shook her head. "If we stop now, every car running Oracle code becomes a ticking bomb." Langley's veneer cracked. "You just accessed proprietary systems without authorization. That's industrial espionage." Arya looked up calm as midnight. I accessed the truth. Sue me for that. A junior technician named Liam Ortega, hands trembling, tapped his phone to record the display. The world needs to see this, he mouthed. Within seconds, Water Oracle Loop lit across social feeds. Pings echoed around the workshop as notifications exploded. Langley spun toward his entourage. Shut those phones down, NDAs now. Yet Hydrotech jackets hesitated. Loyalty warred with self-preservation. Every engineer understood the implication the company had planted digital landmines in a product slated for public release. Arya scrolled deeper, voice steady, but eyes blazing. Loop 88 triggers when coolant hits 212 degrees to exactly highway load. It forces a stall steering locks for 6 seconds, then resets logs so crash investigators find nothing. She stabbed a line of code. You built a phantom defect that could hide itself inside a corpse. Miguel gagged, bile rising. My brother drives a prototype test fleet. Langley's desperation curdled to threat. You think a child's accusation can topple Hydrotech? I'll crush every channel spreading this nonsense. But the algorithm moved faster than threats. Livestream viewers ballooned past 50,000 in under a minute, amplifying Arya's screen share like wildfire. Stock tickers for HTX Industries dipped 3% before Langley could open his mouth again. Kwong stepped forward, voice trembling, yet resolute. Victor, call your lawyers if you must, but don't call my daughter a liar. Langley snarled. His security chief unclipped a radio. The tension felt flammable, one spark from violence. Arya placed herself between engine and CEO Defiance radiant. You want the loop gone, watch. She re-entered her homemade exploit, deleted the sabotage line, rebooted the module. Fans spun gauges leveled, and every error vanished like a magician's vanished scarf. A collective exhale swept the bay, half relief, half dread. The engine purred perfectly, exposing the crime by its very health. Then phones everywhere vibrated with an emergency push alert. Breaking whistleblower claims Hydrotech engine. Sabotage. National tech blogs latched on. Footage of Langley's paling face looped in sidebars before the CEO could blink. Arya returned the tablet to Miguel. Lock diagnostics. Cloud upload the raw packet capture. Check Summit so their lawyers can't scream, tampered. Miguel obeyed, fingers shaking but sure. Langley tried one last gambit, authority dipped in poison. Listen, kid. Walk away now, and I'll fund whatever Ivy League dream you have. Keep talking, and you'll never program a toaster again. Arya met his stare, unblinking. I don't need your money. I need every driver to get home alive. Sirens howled outside, growing louder. Not police, but an unscheduled motorcade. Langley's jaw tightened into stone. He recognized that wail. Federal jurisdiction was arriving, summoned by an anonymous tip only one person present could have sent. Detonations of camera flash lit the bay windows as news vans screeched to the curb. The avalanche had begun, and Hydrotech's empire dangled by a single fraying thread, the resolve of a 14-year-old who refused to unsee a lie. Tires screeched against concrete, and the laughter that had curdled into dread dissolved into dead silence. A black sedan, bearing an unfamiliar federal crest, sliced through the gathered news vans, stopping inches from the bay's threshold. Out stepped Director Evelyn Rhodes of the Infrastructure Security Commission, navy pantsuit eyes like ballistic glass, flanked by 2 agents in matte armor. She raised a single hand, and the cameras, the phones, even Victor Langley's sputtering objections seemed to mute on command. Show me the unit, she said, no wasted syllables. Arya pointed at the now purring Oracle. The girl's hand barely trembled, yet the gesture indicted a corporate giant. Rhodes approached the engine, studied the cleared fault log, then turned to Arya with a look that mixed astonishment and calculation. Name Arya Nguyen. You just exposed a sabotage pattern that evaded 2 of our cyber forensics teams. The director's tone softened by a single degree. That fact makes you significant and a target. She pivoted to Langley. CEO Langley, effective this moment, your facility is under federal custodial audit. No one removes so much as a washer. Langley's face drained of color, yet arrogance died hard. Director Shi is a minor who hacked proprietary code. My legal team will have their chance Rhodes cut in after we guarantee the safety of the only person in this room who can tell truth from misdirection. She faced Arya again. Full clearance internship, relocation, stipend, and federal guardianship until this investigation closes. Except, and you work beside analysts who respect talent, not pedigree. Kwong's breath caught. Miguel Cruz muttered a prayer of relief. Arya opened her mouth, then Langley slammed a folder onto the nearest workbench. Respect talent, he scoffed. Her latest report card C in geometry, suspended for unauthorized system access. That is who your exalting phones tilted for a better shot. The humiliation trap sprung. Arya felt heat flood her ears, but Rhodes merely lifted an eyebrow unfazed. Grades measure compliance, not genius. Still, let's prove it. She drew a sealed black envelope from her inside pocket. Inside is an encryption riddle my agency failed to break in 2 years. Solve it now in front of everyone, and your doubters vanish. The envelope touched metal with a whisper that sounded like a detonator. Live stream numbers spiked. Even the ticking wall clock grew thunderous. Arya's fingers peeled the flap. Columns of base 16 code spilled down the page, dense, recursive, beautiful in its cruelty. She inhaled, slowly summoned the mental toolkit cobbled together from night-long coding binges, and opened the diagnostic app she'd written on a stolen weekend of curiosity. Langley snorted. A phone app against a quantum shield cipher. Director stopped this circus. Quiet road snapped, never turning. Arya isolated repeating clusters, saw them mirror the logic of the oracle loop, but in three-dimensional rotation, a trap for anyone expecting linearity. Her thumb skimmed the screen, stripping false reflections until a solitary, inconsistent byte flashed like a lighthouse. One edit. Compile. Execute. The cascade collapsed into plain text, seed key 4729, Z activate Falcon safe. Rhodes leaned in, lips parted in something dangerously close to awe. That string unlocks a dormant contingency in our satellite mesh. No public documentation exists. She held the sheet aloft for every lens. Solve in 2 minutes. Proof delivered. Langley recoiled as if struck. Impossible, he rasped. Impossible? Rhodes echoed, is your company's new tagline. To Arya, she said, offer stands and upgrades. Witness protection, accelerated clearance, direct line to my office. You've shifted national security calculus in real time. But Arya wasn't finished. She faced the cluster of Hydrotech engineers, their loyalty crumbling behind anxious eyes. Every one of you who signed off on Oracle firmware, you can still do the right thing. Duplicate my packet capture, push it public before corporate PR buries it. The crash you prevent might be your own. A few nodded. Liam Ortega pressed send with shaking fingers. Rhodes stepped beside Arya, voice low. Next 30 minutes, Langley's legal artillery will aim straight at you. The safest path is with us. She produced an encrypted sat phone. Text only me. Code word Falcon. You vanish from public grids until the Senate hearing. Arya looked to her father. Kwong nodded. Fear, pride, surrender melding in one trembling exhale. She closed her hand around the phone. I'll testify, Director, but I won't disappear. People should see who tried to silence them. Langley hissed, you'll regret this. Corporations outlive headlines. Arya met his glare steady. They also implode when enough light hits the cracks. Sirens wailed again. This time police media drones overhead the tidal surge of accountability. Rhodes keyed her radio, Phase 2 extraction. Code Amber. Armored SUVs ghosted into view, outside the bay doors, engines idling like patient beasts. The director laid out the immediate plan in a crisp murmur. Only Arya and her father could hear secure transport to a federal safe site, forensic cloning of every Oracle module, worldwide Senate emergency briefing within 48 hours. And one more thing, Rhodes added, eyes locking on the 14-year-old who just realigned the balance of power. Hydrotech shareholders will crash the market by noon. Your testimony controls whether it stays rubble or rebuilds responsibly. That choice becomes your legacy. Arya inhaled the weight immense, yet strangely fitting like a code she'd secretly rehearsed her whole life. Then let's write the patch, she said. A ghost of a smile crept across Director Rhodes's face. The bay doors rolled open, floodlights burst through, and the world outside waited to see whether truth would march out or be dragged back in chains. Director Rhodes ushered Arya and Kwong toward the waiting armored SUV agents fanning out in a tight diamond. Cameras flashed, but the crowd parted when Rhodes lifted her badge. Authority radiated like shockwaves. Arya slipped into the back seat beside her father tablet, pressed to her chest. The convoy rolled, engines rumbling like distant thunder. 2 blocks out, Arya's phone buzzed despite airplane mode. Unknown number, single sentence. You haven't met fear yet. She showed Rhodes, the director's jaw set. Signal came from a military-grade ghost tower. Whoever threatened you owns infrastructure, not influence. She passed the sat phone. Protocol, Falcon. Any new threat, text me. 3 words. Ghost tower code. My team triangulates. They cleared the industrial district when a MAT drone sliced overhead. Twin rotors, whisper silent. HUD screens in the dashboard flared red target lock. The driver swerved, but the drone accelerated, nose dipping. Rhodes barked stinger nets now. A rear hatch popped. Counter drones rocketed up, deploying filament webs that snagged the attacker midair. It smashed onto the freeway, detonating in a bloom of sparks. Kwong gripped his daughter's hand. We're okay? He lied. Ahead, traffic lights flipped green in perfect succession, too perfect. Arya leaned forward. Zephyr is live routing us. It knows where we're headed. Rhodes's eyes flicked to her wrist comm. Jammers up. Static hissed. The next intersection light froze on red, forcing the convoy to halt. A garbage truck at the corner lurched sideways, revealing a second drone perched in its cargo bed. It launched a kinetic slug that punched through the lead SUV's engine block, showering shrapnel. Agents spilled out, returning fire. The driver of Arya's vehicle punched gas, but steering barked error codes, the electronic rack jerking under remote override. Arya dove across the console, yanking the diagnostic port cover. She stabbed her own cable between tablet and vehicle can, bus thumbs flying. I'm spoofing wheel angle sensor. Manual control in 3, 2. The error cleared. The driver rested the wheel, fishtailing out of the kill zone. Behind them, the crippled SUV burned smoke billowing against skyscrapers like a distress flare. Over comms, an agent cried, We've lost Unit 1. Regroup at fallback Kappa. Rhodes nodded curt. Kappa is 3 minutes west underground. Arya tapped code again. If Zephyr traces my spoof, it'll brick this truck. We need analog. She spotted an idling food service van, wedged between abandoned construction barriers. Stop there. We swap. Rhodes hesitated half a second, then ordered it. Agents burst from doors, commandeered the van, herded Kwong and Arya inside. The chef's keys dangled mercifully, old-school metal, no chipset to hack. They floored at tires, squealing onto a service ramp. Sirens grew distant, but Zephyr adapted. Citywide digital billboards blinked to a single phrase. Return the seed key. Rhodes muttered public intimidation, campaign psych ops. Kwong's knuckles whitened around a bar handle. Arya launched her homemade app, scanning local Wi-Fi for anomalies. Zephyr's piggybacking on mesh networks. If I push a firmware poison pill from here, I can blind its urban nodes, buy us 30 minutes. Rhodes weighed odds. Do it. Arya patched in through the van's aging nav screen, injecting 10 lines of code. All at once, billboards flickered into static traffic sensors, rebooted, and cell towers within 4 blocks dropped offline digital blackout. That'll hurt civilians, Kwong warned. Arya swallowed. Better blackouts than brake locks at 80 miles per hour. Rhodes nodded grim agreement. They tunneled beneath downtown into Kappa Safe House, an abandoned subway platform lit by generator glow. Metal shutters clanged shut behind them. Inside waited arrays of rugged laptops. Faraday cages and one lonely man in a long ash coat, tall slate eyes, a scar-like punctuation across his cheek. Rhodes stiffened. You weren't cleared for this op. The stranger smiled without humor. Clearance is a door. I'm the hinge. He faced Arya. Call me 9. I helped build Zephyr before Hydratech corrupted it. Rhodes aimed her sidearm. 9 died on record 2 years ago. He lifted his wrist, revealing a subdermal chip pulsing blue. Records lie. Arya ignored the tension eyes locked on the main screen, plotting Zephyr's network. Nodes blinked red, expanding outward like a virus. You created this? 9 exhaled. I created a guardian. Langley added fangs. He slid a cryptic key fob across the table. Hardware route to Zephyr's conscience layer. Pair your seed key, and you can rewrite objectives, but only once. Rhodes holstered her weapon begrudgingly. Time outweighed suspicion. Arya connected tablet to fob. Code cascaded demanding the seed she cracked earlier. She typed it heart-throttling. A new prompt appeared. Define prime directive. She blinked. It's asking me to tell it why it exists. 9 nodded. Machine dogs follow the first whistle they hear. Arya's fingers hovered. Out in the city, multiple red nodes converged on their tunnel coordinates. Miguel texted video Hydratech security teams, raiding Guyenne auto-smashing evidence. The clock ticked. Arya typed, protect human life above corporate profit. Preserve transparency. Reject hidden commands. She hit execute. The screen flashed amber. Zephyr's nodes halted, then pivoted, turning blue. Drone telemetry vanished. Across social media, Oracle fault codes and internal memos dumped in mass leaks, Zephyr feeding truth instead of destruction. But victory sputtered. A second kernel rose, Langley's fallback demon. It began to overwrite Arya's directive byte by byte. 9 cursed. Shadow process. We wired that bomb into the system in case of coup. Rhodes asked, how long 20 seconds until full reversal? Arya's pulse drummed. She yanked the fob, snapping its pins. Sparks flew, console screens blipped. All but one. Her tablet still showed right access fob's death, granting final isolated control. A timer slid down 15. 14. Kwong spoke quietly. Choose Kongai. Arya's hand steadied. She typed a single recursive instruction that would cannibalize any conflicting code. If directive changes, revert to last transparency commit. Quarantine foreign signatures. She pressed enter at 3 seconds to spare. Silence. The blue nodes held. External cameras streamed footage of Hydratech drones powering off, mid-air, dropping harmlessly to asphalt. Langley appeared on a live broadcast microphone, shaking corporate backdrop glitching behind him. He tried to assure shareholders the rumors were under investigation. Then his teleprompter replaced his speech with the sabotage logs line by incriminating line. His eyes widened, the feed cut, and stock markets halted trading on HTX at minus 32%. Inside the bunker, everyone exhaled. 9 gave half a laugh, part relief, part disbelief. 14 years old, and you just euthanized the monster I birthed. Rhodes placed a protective hand on Arya's shoulder. She didn't kill it. She rewrote its soul. Yet a final ping sounded text-only message on the sat phone seed acknowledged. Countermeasure Omega preparing. The signature traced nowhere. 9 paled. Omega is off-grid hardware, a bullet with software steering. It targets the author of the seed. Every eye fixed on Arya. Rhodes spoke first. Then phase 3 begins. Now keep her alive until Omega misfires. Sirens wailed topside again, distant but crawling nearer. Agents reloaded magazines. 9 unchecked a steel crate of kinetic dampeners. Arya looked at her father, saw fear melting into fierce determination. We started this, she said. We finish it. Rhodes nodded once, a general accepting a prodigy as equal. Extraction to contingency Raven in 15. And Arya. She turned. Write another patch en route. Because Hydratech's darkness won't end with Langley's resignation. It ends when every fracture in their empire gets the same light you just deployed. The tunnel lights flickered, then steadied power rerouted by Zephyr itself, shielding its new architect. The hunt would rage on, but Arya Nguyen had just claimed the battlefield. Across the skyline, every Hydratech drone froze mid-air rotors, slumping as though shame had weight. Freeways that moments earlier pulsed with fearful brake lights steadied into cautious flow. Traffic anchors reported a sudden simultaneous systems reset believed to have prevented hundreds of accidents. In living rooms from Seattle to Singapore, push alerts stacked like a drumroll HTX Industries. Trading halted after sabotage, leak federal raid underway, founder Victor Langley missing from headquarters. Inside the bunker, the glow from Zephyr's recalibrated nodes bathed Arya and Guyen in soft blue, transforming the grease-smudged teenager into a silhouette of quiet command. Director Rhodes' earpiece, buzzing with cabinet-level congratulations, allowed herself a half-second of unguarded pride. You didn't just avert a tragedy, she told Arya. You redefined the threshold of accountability. Kwang Nguyen's shoulders finally unclenched, tears mixing with engine soot. For 25 years, he'd been dismissed as just another wrench, but tonight, every streaming banner paired his surname with the phrase, pioneered the conscience that raised her. He gripped his daughter's hands as if anchoring reality. Arya squeezed back, eyes bright, but she never stopped scanning Zephyr's telemetries. Vigilance now coded into her pulse. Across town, Miguel Cruz live-streamed federal agents sealing Oracle prototypes in evidence crates. Comments flooded boycott Hydrotech. Hire the kid. See corporate manslaughter charges when shareholders staged emergency calls that collapsed into shouting matches when the system flooded their screens with the very sabotage logs they'd tried to bury. Market analysts labeled it the fastest trust implosion of the decade. Meanwhile, a New York Times op-ed drafted in real time dubbed Arya, the girl who blinked first, and the giant staggered. STEM forums detonated with scholarship offers. Ethical AI think tanks begged for interviews. Yet for every accolade, a shadow counter moved. Encrypted chatter in Hydrotech's dark web channels promised a bounty for Omega's missing target. Rhodes announced next steps over bunker loudspeakers. Phase 3. Senate testimony in 48 hours. Full whistleblower immunity. Zephyr placed under transparent civilian oversight, all hinging on Arya's continued safety. Agents checked magazines, sealed exits. 9. The architect turned ghost, handed Arya a slim drive. Backup of your directive, gup of your. If Omega fires, let the world compare it to whatever Hydrotech claims. She slipped it into her pocket without ceremony. Truth to her had become both weapon and shield. Then a final tremor rippled through social feeds. Victor Langley sighted at a private airstrip boarding a jet with no filed flight plan. Drones still grounded could not pursue, but Zephyr's newly loyal satellites tracked the tail number. On a wall monitor, the path painted a crimson line toward international waters. Arya exhaled once steady. Zephyr sees him, she murmured. He'll never outrun a sky that just chose transparency. Outside, sirens gave way to the distant cheer of protesters already gathering beneath Hydrotech's mirrored towers, chanting a new slogan born minutes earlier online, show the code or shut it down. For the first time all day, silence inside the bunker felt calm, not ominous. The immediate crisis had broken casualties counted in plummeting share prices, rather than bodies. Yet every screen still pulsed, reminding them Omega hovered somewhere unseen. Arya met Rhodes's gaze and spoke the only directive that mattered now. We move before the next shadow learns to lie.